Hello. It's Tuesday night. Oh, I should probably start recording. Well, oh well. Guess I'm doing that on the back end. You guys are good to go. We're streaming now. We are live.
Hi, Keith.
How's it going, guys? Yeah, it usually helps if you turn your mics on now.
My mic's on.
My mic is on.
You
Oh,
make
there
this
we
big
go.
deal about pointing to us, and then you never pointed. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna say.
I figured me starting talking would be the cue.
You are a poor conductor.
You know what?
Poor.
Yeah. No, I was gonna make an Amtrak joke,
Oh,
but it might
okay.
be it might be too soon.
No, too
You
soon.
are a porg
Uh-oh.
conductor.
Oh, jeez.
Just had to go there, didn't
Look
you?
at this. 2 minutes in, and we're already here.
I made a porg joke. Look.
It's your
Poor-
pork.
Oh, no. You had to put that thing next to me? Come on.
You can eat it. You can
No.
eat it.
Listen, if Chewie managed not to eat the porg, you guys can get away with it.
But he didn't. Anyway.
Yeah,
moving
he
on.
didn't. Anyway, so it is Tuesday night. That means we are on Popped. Popped comes at you live every Tuesday. Well, except for next week because Christmas.
Yeah, we're
But
off the next 2 weeks.
We are off the next 2 weeks, but
For real.
yes, actually.
We're actually going to be on.
But most Tuesdays, we are live starting at 8 p.m. on Facebook Live, facebook.com/popshow. You can follow us there throughout the week. We bring you the latest in pop culture news. And we have some really great discussions lately about the merits of Star Wars and A Christmas Prince, the merits of which go without saying. And you can follow us on Twitter at Pop Show. We also stream live on Twitch, and we are a podcast. If you're listening to us, that's where you can hear us live. And if you are watching us live and you want to hear us potted out, join us on Podbean, Google Play, iTunes, and
Stitcher.
I knew there was a fourth one.
Yeah, there's the 4 big ones.
So yeah, we're all about some pop culture potting.
We're all over the place,
That's
really.
right.
And we got YouTube too. So say like your work blocks Facebook and social media, but you still have YouTube and you want to listen to us during
Why
the day
would
at
it
work.
leave YouTube? I feel like that's the big productivity. Oh,
Don't.
Okay.
Don't jinx it.
will the porg make you
It's
feel
bad.
better?
It's bad enough. Some places have already stopped Reddit and
I can
other
pass
things.
you the porg.
Nah, that
Will
you
the
can-
porg
you
help?
can keep that porg. I'll get Grumpy Man Luke.
Oh yeah.
I've got Grumpy Man Luke up there. So
Oh, you can't even see the porg. Okay, no, the porg has to be here, Dean.
Dang it.
I know.
Yeah, because it's been
Embrace the porg. Love the
No,
porg.
the Ewoks are better.
Oh, that's some harsh.
I mean,
that's
yeah.
some big words there. When we get into Last Jedi, we will discuss that because that's going to be some of the topic for the day. We got Last Jedi, we got Disaster Artists, we got comics. I don't know. We might have a full show, hour and a half.
Christmas Prince.
Yes. Christmas
Why do I
Prince.
have? I feel like did it just blow your mind so hard that you can't remember A Christmas
I
Prince?
think it's because you're the only one that actually watched it.
Yeah, but I watched it enough for like 5 people. So
Oh, I know.
So did 52 other people.
She
There's
watched it.
something very-
She watched it, so I don't have to.
there's something very bingey about it. I can't describe it. It's a very bingey show. Movie.
It's a movie, I thought. Okay,
know.
There we go. Just making sure.
I mean, it was cheesy. I don't know, but like, if you were ever a teenage girl, with neither of you were, and
Not last
Nope.
time I checked.
You know,
I wasn't.
the 25 Days of Christmas and Hallmark and Lifetime movies. I mean, it's just part of that same.
It's been a long time since I was a young anything.
That's
It's
true.
part of that.
Someone's got a birthday coming.
Oh, yay.
A big one, too.
Yes. Rub it in.
40.
It's not. It's not me. I'm still 29.
Well, obviously.
Yeah, I'll be 29 for
But you look 22.
the foreseeable future. Aw, good one.
He's learning.
He
Wow.
is learning. So what'd you do in pop culture this week, Dean?
I have been catching up on the Netflix series Troll Hunters.
Troll Hunters.
I've heard good things.
It's
Del
pretty good.
Toro's right thing, right?
Yes, Guillermo del Toro. The first 2 seasons have been out for a while. This is basically the 3rd season. Kind of sad a little bit because the main character is voiced by Anton Yelchin. So they won't be able to, he recorded all his dialogue for this season before he unfortunately passed away. So I don't know what exactly their plans are for continuing on with the show. I know they're going to replace him, but I think they've worked it into the plot somehow. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that.
What's the elevator pitch for that show? I'm not sure I've heard of it.
Basically, there's another world that borders ours. It's populated by trolls and other mystical creatures.
Okay.
And there's one guardian of that world called the Troll Hunter. Usually it's other trolls that become this Troll Hunter, but somehow a human ends up with the medallion that grants him the power. And so he has to now be the protector of both the world of the trolls and the world of the humans.
Is it Animated
It's CGI,
CGI?
animation.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
So probably close to like Ninja Turtles, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I see what you mean.
It's stylized. It's somewhere between Ninja Turtles and Clone Wars style for the characters.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I've been watching A Christmas Prince.
Really?
Yeah, it's actually kind of unfortunate.
The other thing I've been doing is I was reading the Southern Reach series, and the reason I was doing that is because from the many movies I've been seeing recently, one of the trailers that they dropped was the one for Annihilation with Natalie Portman.
Okay.
And the trailer was fascinating enough that I was looking it up to see what the story was about, because the trailer didn't really give too much away at first, and realized it was based on a series of books called the Southern Reach trilogy. So I picked those up from the library and been reading those. Pretty good series. And then after reading the first book, which the movie is based on, I went back and watched the trailer and realized they were doing something completely different with the movie than the book was almost. So.
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
Well, I can see it both ways. One, with it being different, it will at least be it'll be worth watching to see what they do with it. And it won't be just a note for note, so I won't necessarily see what's coming.
Right.
So there's always that. At the same time, if you're going to change something that much, why use it in the first place?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's disappointed me about some of my like favorite book to movie adaptations. I don't know, the best ones. I mean, I always like the book better, right?
Yeah.
The only exception is The Princess Bride. And that is because I saw the movie first and it was so perfectly cast that when I read the book, it just filled in the characters completely.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I did love the book, The Princess Bride, a lot.
Yeah, but it didn't deviate too much. Because
no.
the same, I mean, they left out a lot because there
Yes.
was so much in the book that there's just no way it would have been like a 4-hour movie. But it was very close. Now, another movie that was very close to the book was Gone Girl. And it was another situation where the author of the book wrote the screenplay and very, very little was omitted.
Yeah.
So that's good. If you're a fan of the original work and they stick with it, then it's a question of really casting and shooting and directing and cinematography. And, that's the issue.
The best part of the Princess Bride book is that it's written in such a way that it's actually fooled people that I know into thinking it was a person legitimately telling a story about his grandfather reading the book.
I thought that for probably a good year.
There's at least one edition where Stephen King writes like a foreword to it that makes it feel like it actually is legitimate.
Well, the way that the version I read was written in like William Goldman talks about writing the screenplay, and then he talks about reading the book to his kid, and then he narrates it. So it felt like there were these realistic layers to it, and it obviously was. He's just messing with you. Good for him, though. That's a symbol of a good writer.
Yes.
Speaking of reading, I have been watching the Ready Player One trailer over and over to try to pick up on the Easter eggs, and I did not get many of them. So I've been reading articles about it, but I picked up some of them.
There's a good amount of them.
There is
actually.
a lot of them.
And there's
Yes,
more there are more in there that weren't in the book, which I appreciate. They threw Overwatch in there. Like they tried to update it even for modern stuff too.
Yeah, but that was a book we quite enjoyed. But that book was so long. I don't think there's any way it's gonna be able to be in lockstep with the book.
Well, and he's writing a sequel now too. So I'm wondering.
Wasn't Armada supposed to be the sequel? Oh, good.
No, I think it was supposed. I mean, it was supposed to be like his follow-up book to that, But it ended up, Armada ended up copying Last Starfighter a lot more than Ready Player. Like Ready Player One's a somewhat original story, But I'm curious if he's going to be writing the sequel as far as from the movie's perspective or from the book's perspective, because the movie's going to change.
Yeah, the movie I think will change a lot.
But we'll see what happens.
I'm debating because the movie looks like an interesting premise, and I've never read the book, so I was like, do I read the book before the movie comes out? Will it bias me in any way towards whether thinking the movie is either good or bad because it's not close to the book or too close to the book and that sort of thing?
Right.
So that one I might wait for just watch the movie.
The book has a lot of layers to it. And it has a lot of little intricate plot details, but I think Spielberg is the right guy to do it. So I feel pretty good about it. Greg, did you see the Ready Player One trailer?
Yes, I did.
What'd you think?
I hated the book, so I'm assuming I'll hate the movie equally as much.
You hated? How come you hated the book? We'll get to your intro, but I got to know. How come you hated the book?
It's too long.
It is.
We could talk about it all night.
It is too long. Oh, the book or the reasons you hate it, or both?
The reasons. But I hate everything.
Well, on that happy note, let's get your intro.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, here's the intro for Greg, who hates everything, except for maybe these few
Dean.
comics.
Comics with Greg. Comics with Greg.
You gotta do
no,
it with
am I
them.
only the one?
Aw.
Comics with
I'm
Greg.
sorry, you're the only
Comics with
one.
Greg.
Matt's
No,
not
damn it.
here.
Yeah.
So
Comics with
sad.
Greg.
I'm not gonna do it.
Comics
today.
with Greg. All right. Now, you know what? That's fine. I don't need to do it.
Fine.
I did it enough, and that's, there.
Matt's not here tonight, so
I still
poor
did it.
Keith. Poor Keith, I
That's
know.
Whatever.
Aw.
I don't need you guys.
Matt's not here, so it's a 10 times better show. Hey.
Oh.
Ooh, burn.
Actually, he's dealing with family issues, so.
Burn in absentia.
So, what do we got this week, Greg? We got a lot of good stuff.
You just gonna throw me out there like that? What
Yeah.
do we got this week?
Yeah.
Wow. All right. What? There's some new books this week. It's getting close to the end of the year, but there's no shortage of really good stuff that I'm excited for. 3 huge books this week. The first one being Metal from DC. It's the 4th issue, and the series has really resonated with fans. I can't keep it in stock. I've sold a ton of the main series, the tie-ins featuring the Batman villains, the Man Who Laughs, and all the other Dawnbreaker, Murder Machine, all the great Batman stuff. It's been a really, really well-received series. So issue 4 tomorrow.
Now, Greg, we've got Dean filling in for Matt this week, and Dean's actually been reading Batman
The Batman Who Laughs. I
That
did read
is.
that tie-in, which I thought was pretty good. It was very interesting. From character design wise, it's fascinating for me. So I definitely picked up the tie-in issue. Only disappointing thing I could say was that it didn't dwell enough on the mental deterioration of Batman as he morphed into a Joker type Batman. But still a fairly well done issue for me.
Yeah, that seems to be the most popular of these kind of Batman villains, these like dark Batman. So, definitely I feel what you're saying though, for sure.
Awesome. What else we got this week?
Book 2 that I'm really stoked for is The Return of the Fantastic Four. Marvel hasn't published a Fantastic Four comic in probably 4 or 5 years since, I believe it was Hickman's run ended, or there was someone right after Hickman, I forget who it was, but it's been a while since they published any Fantastic Four stuff. We get half the team tomorrow, The Thing and the Human Torch. It's written by Chip Zdarsky, who draws Sex Criminals, which is a great book, and he's really funny. So I think he's going to be a good fit for this. And it's drawn by Jim Cheng, who is always really awesome. So it should be a top-notch Marvel book, which I haven't been able to say a lot lately, but this one seems pretty awesome. So
Okay.
it's called
Well,
Marvel 2-in-1, and it features The Thing and the Human Torch.
Do you think that there's going to be some renewed interest in some of these sort of poor, abused Marvel properties now that there's this merger happening and Disney might be in charge of them? Like we've talked a lot about the Fantastic Four under that context. Do you think there's going to be some surge of interest in the comics?
I really hope so. I think a lot of fans were excited. I think they were withholding the publishing of Fantastic Four because any characters or anything they created were then automatically given movie rights to Fox.
Right.
So a lot of fans are excited that even though it's just a tiny little part of the Fox Disney deal, that we might see some other Fantastic Four comics again in the near future once it's all said and done. So yeah, they're really excited for that.
So, Greg, I didn't really prepare you for this question, and I probably should have because it's going to be a little harder than Sarah's question. If you had to cast Human Torch and The Thing, who would you throw out there?
That's not fair. You
I
need to give
know.
him time to research.
All right, okay, I'll give him time to research because that might be a show topic in the new year. Is we're going to cast a new set of X-Men and a new set of Fantastic Four. So now that we have, if they were casting it in the MCU, who would it be? So
Yeah, put that in your noodle. We don't. That's unfair.
I told you it was a hard
Keith.
question.
So mean. Don't listen to him, Greg.
The Human Torch, my pick would be Daniel Day-Lewis, obviously, because he's the best actor in the world.
Totally, really gets into the character.
For The Thing, I feel like you need a big guy. So,
John Cena.
Pick a big guy.
Here's an easier question for you. Then,
God.
would you do CGI for the thing, or would you actually cast a person in prosthetics?
John Cena.
Oh, that's a tough one. See, I do it. It would probably be like they did the Vision kind of combo of both. I guess maybe.
Yeah.
But
The Rock and Daniel Day-Lewis together though.
Yeah. See, I was gonna throw out The Rock.
A double team. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
The
I'd
Rock
pay
is
to
in
see
everything
that.
at this point. So
no, he'll be in the middle of his presidential run. John Cena. We want John Cena.
that's true. He's doing that Disney Ferdinand movie, so I mean, they got to keep it in house,
true.
right?
John Cena.
All right. Well, Sarah's not going to let us answer that question without saying John Cena. So, Greg, what else have you got for us as far as comics? What's next on the list of Greg's picks?
The last book for tomorrow is one of the comics that I've been just anticipating for probably 4 months since it was announced, called X-Men Grand Design. It's written and drawn by Ed Piskor, who does Hip Hop Family Tree. If you haven't read that book, it's tremendous. It's the history of hip hop in comic book form. He's done a really great job with that series. And with this comic from Marvel, he's retelling the story of the X-Men from issue 1 to issue 280, which is a very specific issue number. And he's going to tell it in one cohesive story over probably 5 or 6 comics. And the first one, I read it as soon as I opened the boxes today, and it was really, really good. So if you're an X-Men fan from way back when, you like Ed Piskor from his hip-hop stuff, this is a great comic, and I'm stoked for it.
Now,
X-Men Grand Design.
Now, how many issues is this going to? How many? He's trying to get 280 issues in. How many issues is he trying to cram it into?
There's going to be There's going to be 6 issues. They're going to be done they're going to be done in volumes of 2 issues each.
Okay.
So the first issue that comes out tomorrow is double sized. It's very thick. So there'll be basically 3 volumes of the series. So not that many, probably 6 comics, and then maybe 250 pages total. So it's almost like a page an issue if you break it down that way. So it should be really cool.
Wow.
That's going to take an incredible feat of writing.
Yeah, it is, and he's really done a great job with the first issue at least.
Nice.
Let's hope it stays that way.
Good.
Well, fingers crossed.
Those are my three for tomorrow. I'm excited for us to do those books.
Awesome. Well, we are looking forward to it. I think I might pick up that Grand Design after that sell there that Greg threw out.
I know, that was pretty awesome. I'm like, I'll read it when you're done.
That's fine.
If I was going to buy any comic books, that's probably what I would end up buying at this point.
Yeah.
And where are we going to go to get this fine comic book?
If you want to come to Local Heroes, I'm in Norfolk, 1905 Colonial Avenue in Ghent. And if you're not in the area, comicshoplocator.com will find you a locally owned comic store close to you.
Well, there you go. I will be there tomorrow evening, Greg.
Yeah, we are in the area.
Thank you,
so
guys.
you will see us.
For sure. All right, man. If I don't talk to you, have a good Christmas, have a good New Year, and we will talk to you in 3 weeks.
Yes, absolutely. I can't wait to be back. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, Greg. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, major writing.
Yeah.
That's a lot of combo. 280 issues in 6 issues.
So what was he like when he was general writing?
Oh, major writing. Yeah, I get it. Ha ha. How I Met Your Mother joke. Very nice. Very nice. Can we get back to A Christmas Prince now?
Yes, we can go back to Princess, whatever, that thing.
No, we don't have to.
No, you want to talk about it. You did a little pop chick on it. Here, I'm just going to cover up my face and do that.
Get it over with and spoil everything for me so I don't have to actually watch it.
To be fair, that was basically covering up your face for the last couple weeks anyways. For our podcast listeners, we are broadcasting live on facebook.com/popshow, and Keith just pulled up a picture of the very prestigious movie poster of this Netflix original movie, A Christmas Prince, and it covered his face.
Yes.
Which is basically a symbol of how my relationship has gone for the last couple weeks.
I haven't eaten in weeks.
I know.
The house is a mess.
All I've done for like the last 7 days is watch A Christmas Prince.
You know, Keith, you're perfectly capable of cleaning the house up yourself.
It's too much work.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Did you not see my bachelor pad before she came around?
That's true. So, A Christmas Prince. Let me talk to you about this weirdly, like...
Why is it so addictive? That's what I want to know, because you and 52 other people have watched this movie for like 18 days straight. It's like a continuous loop.
So here's what happened. Netflix is selective about how they release their information. So they don't do a lot of data sharing. No, and Miles on Facebook is asking, have I watched The Christmas Inheritance yet? No, but you're the third person to mention that to me today. So the story about Facebook is that they are not super, I don't know if they don't dig into their data or they just don't share it. But they have started to share some of their data metrics on their shows. And one of the things that they tweeted, for the 18 people who've watched Christmas Prince for,
No, for the 53 people who have watched Christmas Prince 18 days straight.
Yeah. Who hurt you? that is what Netflix tweeted. And then, of course, the internet loved it and said, why you got to call me out like that, right? So naturally, I'm thinking, okay, this is not going to be the worst movie I've ever seen. I'm just going to watch it. I watched it, and it is pretty terrible. The writing is so cliche. The dialogue is bad. The whole premise is ridiculous. It's so predictable. It's got every romantic comedy and Christmas.
So what you're saying is some Lifetime writers are now working for Netflix.
No, it's like Lifetime and Hallmark had an illegitimate child that nobody likes, and then that guy wrote this movie. So
inbreeding's a horrible thing. That's probably why the prince looks like that.
he's really cute.
Keith is jealous. Don't let him fool you.
He has a beard at the beginning.
I have a beard now. I kept my beard.
I mean, he's cute.
That's fine. I can't
Richard.
say anything. The Yellow Power Ranger's there, so I'm going right with it.
Is the girl the Yellow Power Ranger?
Yeah, she was the Yellow Power Ranger for RPM. Rose McIver. I'm saying Yellow Power Ranger. She's doing really well on iZombie. It's going on like 4 or 5 seasons now. So I should give her credit for the show that's actually made her popular. But I first saw her in Power Rangers RPM.
Well, where I first saw her was another Lifetime movie. I may have a little bit of a problem. She was so there was Flowers in the Attic, which
that's the other one. I remember you watching that one. It was really weird.
No, it is. It's like the notoriously scandalous novel about like incest, basically. But it's but there's Flowers in the Attic, and then there's all the subsequent ones after that, and she's in one of the sequels. But like it was a big deal on Lifetime because that movie had been made. I mean, it was written in the 70s or something, or the 80s, and then it was like so scandalous at the time. And so anyway, that's where I knew her from. She was in the
I'll stick with iZombie because that's at least a good show.
Right. So anyway,
Power Rangers RPM was actually pretty solid too.
I watched it and it was terrible. A Christmas Prince is terrible, but I don't know. Maybe it's the time of year. Maybe it's. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing my chick flick girlfriends, and I don't know. I really like it. I have no reason.
He's just not filling that void?
I'm never going to happen.
No, he's never going to fill that chick flick. He just, he doesn't. He's never going to watch it with me. Yeah, I've watched it a few times. I'm not going to admit how many, but it's been a few, not 52, not 18 days straight or anything like that. But fair. But yeah, I quite enjoy Christmas Prince, and I did a pop chick about it. If you do not follow our Facebook page, facebook.com/popshow, I have been adding videos with a female perspective. I haven't done one yet this week because it's been kind of a busy week, but last week it was on A Christmas Prince.
Yeah. Well, we've been
and then like 5 of my girlfriends texted me or emailed me or commented, and they're like, I watched this just because of you and it's terrible, but I love you. I don't know. Women, like not all women, but at least myself, like I'll watch a movie that's horrible and like, I don't know, it scratches some weird itch, like that part of my brain that used to play with Barbies and acknowledges that that's not something I want to continue.
I won't judge you too harshly because there have been a couple movies out there that were so horrible I could not watch them.
Like what?
The one that comes to mind, so I was just talking about it at work with somebody, was Wolf Cop. It's on Netflix. Trust me, it is a god-awful film, but at the same time, I couldn't stop watching it. I don't know why.
Wolf Cop?
Wolf Cop, yes. Yeah, anyway, not recommended for children. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Keith, do you have any horrible movies?
That I enjoy watching or that I can't watch?
That you enjoy watching.
Dean might know this one. Alien Apocalypse with Bruce Campbell and the blonde chick from
I'm
Xena.
aware of that one.
It's pretty bad. Alien Apocalypse with Bruce Campbell. I have it, obviously, on DVD, as I would.
I don't need to borrow it.
Yeah, well, I have it if anyone wants to watch it. Yeah, it's bad story, bad, physical effects. But it's Bruce Campbell, so how could you not love it, right? So.
So speaking of terrible movies, The Room is a...
Oh, hi, Mark.
Yeah, there you go. The Room is a legendarily terrible movie. We saw it for the first time before we last had a show. But since we talked about going to The Room.
No, we saw The Room back in November.
Right. No, I know. That's what I'm saying. Before our the last show that we had. And we have since seen The Disaster Artist. So now, Dean, you have not seen The Disaster Artist.
I have not. I haven't seen The Disaster Artist. I haven't even seen The Room. People kept recommending it to me because it's so bad that I had to see it. Never got around to it because there's plenty of other things I don't have free time for. Why would I watch something?
Tearing me apart, Lisa!
I'll give you that one. But then, oddly enough, I saw the initial trailer for The Disaster Artist where it's they're reenacting the scene from the top of the roof.
Oh, hi, Mark.
And that scene itself was hysterical. So I at that point I wanted to see The Room just to see if it was
we were in the same boat.
as bad. But now it's actually becoming popular again, the movie The Room. And so the more popular it becomes, now I'm even less likely to see it. It's an odd character.
I think you should still see it.
Your use of the word again is the problem because it has a cult. It's always had a cult following, but it's never been in wide release because it's just a really bad movie.
Interjection real quick. It is actually going to be in wide release. They announced it today that Fathom Events is doing a 600 theater release. So I put that on the Popped page, facebook.com/Pop Show. It should be posted today, and you guys can figure out on Fathom Events when it is and where it is close by. It's in 4 theaters locally.
So the thing about The Room is that it's terrible, and the reason I enjoy it, but I loved going to see it. It was so much fun because of all that crazy call, and response, and the spoons, and all the craziness that happens in the theater. I'd experienced that with I've seen, Rocky Horror, and, there's other movies. It's not the only movie where that happens. But The Room is a different experience because, you go in knowing it's really bad. You don't expect to see any quality cinema at all, right?
You're tearing me apart, Lisa!
Yeah, sorry about that, Tommy. So The Disaster Artist was different in feel from The Room, and I think because of the trailers, I expected it to feel the same, laughable, and I expected... I heard The Disaster Artist was really good, and I think in my brain, I expected that campy terribleness from The Room to translate somehow, and that was why it was good, but it's not how it went at all.
No, I should turn my mic on now. I was actually in the same boat because I was expecting to go into The Disaster Artist, expecting to see behind-the-scenes stuff right away. The movie's about an hour and a half, pretty standard length for movies these days that aren't big blockbusters, and went in there. I was like, all right, let's get to the disaster or the room part. Let's see the behind the scenes because there was a lot of drama with that. But they started out with Tommy Wiseau's and Greg Sestero's friendship and how they became friends and some of the stuff they did together. And then I found myself, by the time they got to the room, I was like, no, I want to see more about them hanging out. I want to see more about their relationship. And it was really well done. And then they get to the room part, which I think could have been longer. In this day and age with movies being 2.5 hours long, they probably could have given us another 10 minutes of the room, and I totally would have been fine with it. And they ended the movie, and they ended it really well. I was touched at the end of the movie. It was, they did it really well. They kind of played up how campy the room is, but then they were, they kind of had a happy ending to it. Now, if it really happened like that, I'm not 100% sure. But my favorite part of the whole movie, and it made me want to see this after the fact, they did a side-by-side comparison of The Room, and then they had The Disaster Artist with James Franco and stuff, those people doing The Room. And I kind of want to see The Room redone now with all these disaster artist actors and actresses.
Well, they had paid such close attention, and The Disaster Artist, in a lot of ways, so it did tell the story of how the movie came together. In a way that I didn't really expect. which I should have. I don't know why I didn't expect that, but it was done so carefully and so lovingly with respect to the source material that like some of them were like everything just mirrored shots and lighting and camera angles and costumes, and it was just in lockstep. So they obviously had like a great respect for the source material, regardless of the fact that it is objectively a terrible movie, but it reminded me of, and I keep bringing this up, and nobody knows what I'm talking about. There's a movie, and it's
Miles did. Miles knew.
Well, yeah, of course. Miles is literally a pop culture scholar, so of course
True.
he knew what I was talking about. But there's a movie called Anvil: The Story of Anvil.
No.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
Just you and Miles.
So okay. And it's not just me, Miles. It's good. It's a documentary, and it is about a metal band from, I don't know, the 70s and 80s. And they were like right on the cusp of being really, really big. And a big part of this movie of this documentary was talking to like real life, actual well-known musicians, like regardless of how you feel about them, like the only one that really stands out in my mind was Sugar Ray, which is like a really bad example. But there were other musicians in there who were like, yeah, Anvil, man, they rock so hard. Everyone knew Anvil was just going to be the next big thing. And then it cuts to this scene of these two like middle-aged Canadian guys who are basically like driving lunch trucks and have kids and normal lives, and they just want to be rock stars. But this document, and you think like probably halfway through that, until like you're, I don't know, maybe 30 or 50% through the movie, that this is a mockumentary. Like you're thinking this is Spinal Tap because it's so absurd, right?
Yeah.
Like there's no way this is a real thing. And then it turns out that it is a real band, and they were just trying to make it big. And this documentary was the thing that really sort of pushed them to actually have some worldwide notoriety. And it was so lovingly done by a fan. Right? And this is how this movie feels, that it was lovingly done by a fan. And this was the thing to push this questionable quality thing, but it was obviously done with love and passion and a weird amount of money, pushing it into the forefront. And that's what happened. I mean, Tommy Wiseau has a notoriety now that he never had or would have had probably.
Yeah.
I mean, he likes showing up. I don't know if Greg Sestero does as much, but Tommy Wiseau likes going to these midnight showings. I mean, he totally gets it.
Oh, he's fully embraced it.
Yeah. And it's like, well, good for him.
I mean, I'm glad it worked out well for him in that fashion.
Him and all his belts.
I was after watching more of the trailers for the SRS, I was really starting to feel sorry for Wiseau, just because he seemed to have such a passion for what he was doing, and yet be so bad at what he loves the most. It seems it's just an incredibly sad thing for me.
Yeah, and they play that up in the movie a little bit, but it resolved itself in a positive way, and you're like, all right. And he's rolling with it, man. He rolled with the punches. If this is how he's going to get popular, he realizes this. Because The Room was made in 2003, so when The Disaster Artist is pretty recent, and it's been. Have you watched any of the interviews with him?
No.
Yeah, he did some press with Franco. He was on what?
Jimmy Kimmel. I think Kimmel was the one I saw.
And he was like, yeah, it was like 99% accurate. And Franco was like, well,
99.9% accurate. Lighting off in first scene.
Yeah, I mean, no. Yeah, basically. But it was kind of nice to know that even with all the because he does not look like a good person in the movie. He doesn't. He looks obsessive and irresponsible and kind of mean, and it's human, but he doesn't necessarily come off as the most sympathetic character, and he likes the movie and he supports it, and that sort of makes you feel good about it, because it feels like they're not blowing smoke, but it feels like he's honest and he's
genuine and passionate.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Travis chimed in about Anvil. He said Anvil actually had talent, so them finally finding the wider audience they did off the back of the documentary was a really feel good story. Tommy Wiseau is really softened in the movie compared to how he's depicted in the book, and in both, he's plainly incompetent, according to Travis.
I'm glad Travis has also seen Anvil, and yeah, Anvil, they're a talented bunch. If you like metal, which I don't particularly care for, but it was kind of amazing how they just the train just pulled out of the station without him. This is objectively terrible source material, so it was never going to pull out of the station. Although it has now.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, Travis mentions the book. I don't think we even mentioned the Disaster Artist is based on a book by the co-star Mark, or no, Greg Sestero, who plays Mark. Thank you, in the Room. So, and that's one of the things I heard in one of the interviews. Is, James Franco was saying that Tommy didn't like the book. He go, book 40% true, so he was worried about the movie, and luckily he's very happy with the movie. Now he might just be happy with the movie because it's getting him lots of press, and The Room is getting a wider, view. Now it's getting more into the mainstream, which I don't think it'll lose its cult status because even Evil Dead has had, it started off as a cult film, and same with Princess Bride. But now they started out with cult followings, and they become pretty mainstream and widely accepted as solid movies that they are.
Yeah, well, Rocky Horror cult film.
You mentioned like enjoying going to see The Room with people who were making comments and so forth. I don't think you're ever going to be able to have an experience watching The Room cinematically without that anymore.
Well, and Chris Burrs, a buddy of ours, he tried to have his girlfriend watch the DVD. He has the DVD at home. Like, he tried to get her to sit down, like, in the setting, like, right now, and just watching it. And she couldn't do it. They stopped, like, 10 minutes in. But I think having that environment where, I mean, granted, I couldn't tell everything they were saying, but some of the stuff they were saying was pretty funny. Like, bless you.
Thank you.
Despite the movie was taking place in San Francisco, the Room, but they filmed it in L.A. And so they would have all these cutscenes back to like generic overview shots of San Francisco, and like the whole audience would yell, "Meanwhile in San Francisco," or when they, and we actually, this is one thing we did just to be safe, because we weren't sure the crowd of the Disaster Artist, if they was going to follow the same kind of crowd as The Room, which it didn't, unfortunately.
We had spoons nonetheless.
There are pictures in The Room where it's just random pictures that you'd have framed up on a table or on a bookshelf or something of spoons. That was the one thing the Disaster Artist did not cover.
I know, I kind of wanted to know where the spoons
So did I. But anytime one of those pictures came up, people just started pelting plastic spoons at the screen. We were getting hit with spoons in the middle of The Room. Wow. So we naturally, actually, Sarah was up at the concession stand getting a soda or something, I think, for the movie. And I texted her, I was like, crap, we forgot spoons. Grabbed their stash of spoons. She came back with spoons, and I had them prepared, but
no one threw them.
So what you're telling me is that I should expect the home video release that has the all the audience participation as subtitles down at the bottom of the screen for The Room.
That'd be nice.
Like they do for Rocky Horror.
They should
do that.
Yeah.
There is a post-credit scene for the Disaster Artist, so if anyone hasn't gone to see it yet, stick around, see it. There's nothing spoilery about it. It's just Tommy Wiseau and James Franco having fun with Tommy's personality, and it's really enjoyable. So, yeah, that was that. So
yeah, so that was the good movie based on a bad movie. Let's talk about the mixed reviews of a movie based on a great movie. I'm talking about Star Wars. Just whatever. Don't make me throw the porg at you.
Yeah, so a little movie called The Last Jedi came out recently, Thursday.
Keith, have you seen it?
Yeah, I finally got around to seeing it. I guess, it was something on my list I could do. I had nothing else to do on Sunday, so I was like, I guess I'll go see it, whatever. It's a little movie. I'm not sure many of you guys have heard of it, but it came out. I went and saw it on Thursday. Sarah, Ariel, and I went, and then Dean, you saw it Thursday. I think we all saw it at 7 o'clock on Thursday.
I saw it Thursday, and I went to see it again Sunday night.
I almost went to go Sunday night, but I bought virtual reality instead. So got distracted. So yeah, I've been writing up about it on Pop Show just because I will admit I am a Star Wars fanboy. I have. Let's see, can you? I know, right? It's a big surprise for anyone who doesn't know me. I don't know if they can see it. Let's see here. There's a weird noise coming from outside. Sorry. Yeah, they can't really see it, but over my right shoulder there, I have a whole shelf full of Star Wars books. I read the comics. I've watched Clone Wars and Rebels, so I will fully admit I am a fanboy. I I don't make excuses for it, but
Well, the Lego Superstar Destroyer on top of my bookcase at home is nothing but a dead giveaway where I
Yep.
stand. So.
I remember you giving me time lapse pictures of that one too. That was years ago.
I have a porg.
You do.
Good for you.
See my
Yeah, she
porg?
does. That was Miles's gift to her, Christmas present. To us, but I'm like, I don't want that crap in my house. Get that out of here.
Porg. Why would you want it?
So
Look at him.
It's horrible.
He's adorable.
It's horrible.
not as bad as I was expecting
He's
him
a
to be.
porgable.
I was.
That was
gee,
bad. That was bad. Never mention that again, please.
Porg adorable.
You get nothing. You lose.
Do I need to pull out the judgmental Luke again on you, Sarah?
That's true. We have created a fun little meme from this now, and let me hear. I'm horrible on this one because I actually haven't set it up yet. So, but yeah, so we saw it. It is people are. I don't even know how to describe it. Like
it is amazing the dichotomy between the film critics that have reviewed it and the way fans have treated this film. It's
I don't
not
get
what I
it.
was expecting.
Yeah, like it's gotten a worse review on. Here you go, Sarah. Judgmental Luke is judging you. That meme is never going to get old. We created a little meme with I think it was Sideshow. They had a super accurate Luke Skywalker from Episode 8, and
What they can do with the toys like that these days is uncanny.
Sideshow or Hot Toys or Sideshow. I don't remember.
Hot Toys does some. I don't know if this one's Sideshow or Hot Toys.
Yeah.
Chandler would know.
Yeah, he would. But that's who we actually got the idea from. Our buddy Chandler. He was talking about how judgy Luke looks, and we decided to make this little meme out of it. So there is that. Maybe we'll post it up on the Facebook page eventually. So we use that on all of our text back and forth with each other. But yeah, it's the crowd reaction has been incredibly mixed. Way more than I expected it to be, especially after The Force Awakens.
Way more than I think the film deserves, too, honestly.
Agreed. I mean, even the prequels, as bad as they were, don't deserve the crap they got.
No.
None of us are filmmakers. None of us have made a movie, at least not in this room. So, they hire these. I mean, if these people wanted to write Episode 8, they could have made a pitch and gone for it.
To the point where they have actually created a petition to have The Last Jedi removed from Star Wars canon.
There have been a long list of. Let me see if I can pull this up here. There's been a long list of dumb petitions created because of The Last Jedi.
Before we get into this, podcast listeners, there's spoilers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just so you know, if you haven't seen Last Jedi yet,
Yeah.
You might want to tune out.
yeah.
Yeah, that's that's another drop I'll need to cut it because now I've got my drop machine back for those who haven't noticed, and it has been working wonderfully.
Oh, hi, Mark.
So, there have been. I'm trying to pull up this list here. There have been, and I'm trying not to get distracted here too. There have been a lot of petitions, and there's about 10 of them. There are 10 petitions that I saw that are just incredibly stupid, from taking it out of canon, from having the worst. This was the worst one. They want Rian Johnson, the writer and director, to apologize for making The Last Jedi.
Oh, for crying out
Yeah.
Oh
loud.
yeah, it's bad. It's seriously bad. I wish I could find this now. I know it's around here somewhere.
So I have no particular investment in this other than it makes my house happy because when Star Wars is good, my fiance is happy.
Well, that is true.
So that is a good thing, but I have no investment in this. I mean, I know who the characters are. I've never seen the prequels because he hasn't made me watch them. And
Fair enough.
I think porgs are cute.
To be fair, the original trilogy is a must. You got to watch that. And
Yeah,
I
I've
didn't
seen
want
the
to.
original trilogy a couple times.
The prequel trilogy, to me, they have some merit. Not a lot, but they have some merit.
There's at least 1.5 good movies
Out of the three.
out of the three.
Yeah. So if she gets bored enough and wants to say, "Hey, I want to delve more into Star Wars and watch the prequels," I'll be happy to watch all three with her. But I haven't forced it. So, Sarah, continue.
Right. So I went into this movie as like an inevitable consequence of the choices in my life. And I mean, I wasn't dreading it or anything, but because I liked The Force Awakens and I liked Rogue One. I mean, there was it wasn't
Right. Those were good movies.
They were good movies. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't like super. None of them propelled me into major interest, but you know, the original trilogy didn't either. So I went into this and I came out of it, and Keith asked me what I thought, and I said that I liked it, but it was pretty obvious that the scripting was crowd pleasery. And, you know, and there was a lot of convenience that I was able to pick up on, but it's just because I know how complex the universe is. But other than that, I mean, yeah, it was fine.
Interesting. For me, as anyone who knows me, I try to avoid a lot of articles and publicity for movies that I want to go see well in advance of actually going to see the film. I'll watch one trailer and I'll stop watching any kind of trailers because
that's what I did for this one.
So for most movies, I can go into relatively spoiler free. This one, even though I planned ahead, I didn't watch anything. I didn't even read any reviews of it. Even so, like for example, like Force Awakens, I only watched the first trailer too. And then when I was watching The Force Awakens, I wasn't really surprised by anything that was done in the film. I mean, I kind of saw where it was going. And it felt like a Star Wars movie to me. Watching this one, even with how I normally don't spoil movies for myself, I was incredibly surprised by this one. Nothing about this really was as I expected it to go.
Same.
You mentioned that you thought that the script was fan servicey. I thought that this was.
Did you mean that for Last Jedi or Force Awakens?
I thought you meant for The Last Jedi.
I meant. Okay, let me amend that. I said fan servicey, but I meant not. I meant just like the general, like more for the general public fan, to like recruit fans and not necessarily
because Rogue One and Force Awakens, those were fan service.
This one for me destroyed so many Star Wars tropes. And I mean, I can going after coming out and watching this one. I was talking to a friend of mine. If anyone was heavily invested in any of the mysteries that The Force Awakens brought to the table, I can see where you would be disappointed by this film. I did get the impression that Rian Johnson is not a fan of the J.J. Abrams style movie. J.J. Abrams, and I mean, I'm not a big fan of the way J.J. Abrams writes and directs films too. I think he focuses way too much on establishing a mystery every time. And he sets up these mysteries, but he never ends up paying them off as well as what you would think. And I could tell that Rian Johnson wasn't really a fan of that mystery style because every mystery that The Force Awakens set up, he basically eliminated within this movie.
And I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with it because after that, I have no idea where they're going to go with this next film at all.
Yeah.
Well, that's true.
And that's very exciting. Yeah. Travis has chimed in on Facebook here. He said it's really the diehard fans that have been the most vocally angry / frustrated. The more casual fans seem to have rolled with it and genuinely enjoy it like the critics did. He said it's a pretty messy narrative, but he thinks it did more good than not. It clears the way for Star Wars to finally move past the Skywalker family and their friends exclusively. I agree 100% with him. Now, you mentioned expectations. I built this up in my head because I wanted some questions answered. I was very excited about the Snoke, about Knights of Ren. I had all these ideas in my head that I was hoping would get answered. And I came out of this theater not really sure if I liked it or not. But the more time I've taken away from it, I still need to do a second viewing. I might go Saturday before we hang out. And I came out of there very confused. I was like, it wasn't Star Wars that I'm used to, but you know what? I think I might be okay with that. And the more time I've spent away from it, the more I am okay with it. Because Snoke, for example, again, we've gotten spoilers here, so I'm just going to throw this out here. They split him right in half. And I thought that death was great. I was not expecting it. And I was expecting him to stay throughout the whole trilogy, a la the Emperor and Vader. But you know what? People are complaining that they don't know who he is. One, we still have another movie. We can still find that out. Two, Star Wars loves doing their expanded universe kind of stuff. Is that the best way to call it? Their comics, their novels. Yeah. They do other media stuff to tie all these things in, and now it's canon. So whatever they put out there, they could have a book coming out called Snoke. They've been doing it for Tarkin. They've been doing it, or not? Yeah, they've been doing it for Tarkin. They did it for. Why am I drawing a blank on? The Blue General. Why am I...
Thrawn.
Thank you. I knew it was a T name, but I blanked. Sorry. They did it for Ahsoka Tano, and I could totally see them doing a book on Snoke. I could see them covering it in comics. I could see them J.J. Abrams coming back around since he's doing episode 9 now and saying, well, this is what he was, or this is. But I thought about it. We didn't know squat about the Emperor. He was just Vader's boss. Vader was his lackey. And that's all we knew about the Emperor. We knew he was the ultimate bad guy. So we came out of the original trilogy knowing the same amount about the Emperor that we came out of 2 movies knowing about Snoke.
Well, that's a writing risk.
It is.
Yeah.
There were a lot of risk in this movie.
It's a writing risk to have a powerful character be a secondary character. And it's a challenge that the writer creates for themselves. And it's hard to honor, because naturally when you have Snoke was malformed. He was, he was in this position of great power. He had this control over a main character.
Yep.
And to take a character like that and not take the easy way out and make him primary to the story, is a risk.
I mean, there's a trend these days to over-explain everything. I mean, we saw it in the prequels where Lucas decided to explain the Force as midi-chlorians. We have to know everything about this character. We have to know everything about that character, who they are now, where they came from, that sort of thing.
And people love fan theories.
And
populates a lot of the stuff on
now,
these sites.
I mean, would I have liked to seen a little bit more of Snoke? It was an interesting enough character that I wouldn't mind seeing and knowing more about him. Ultimately, though, this is not really Snoke's movie.
No.
And what his death does to set up Kylo Ren is a very exciting prospect for me.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree.
After Force Awakens, where Kylo Ren kills his father, Han Solo.
What?
We can go past spoilers on this one, I'm sure. Though my mom hadn't seen Force Awakens, and I kind of ruined that for her tonight. So sorry, Mom.
Whoops.
But there's always this idea with Star Wars of redemption. These characters can redeem this. Like Vader has some good in him. We can redeem him, that sort of thing. I didn't really want to see Kylo Ren redeemed. I mean, I don't know how you would come back from killing your father anyway, personally. But I didn't want to see him redeemed just because of that.
Makes sense. I can go with that.
And when he almost got redeemed in this movie, I'll have to admit it was kind of a cool moment. But I love the fact that in the end, he didn't actually redeem himself. He
got
just
more pissed off.
He just doubled down on it. The reason why Snoke didn't see it coming, he didn't see any more conflict in Kylo, because Kylo had made his decision to actually listen to what Snoke told him to in terms of killing off the past. And he did it completely. He killed off the light side of himself when he killed his father. He killed off the dark side of himself when he killed off Snoke. And now he's his own man, and I have no idea what he's going to do with him next.
And you know what? I'm very excited for that because, and Travis mentioned it as well, it's like they are done with the Skywalkers at this point. Yeah. The saga films, the episodes 1 through 9, effectively are supposed to be about the Skywalkers. And the one disappointing thing I do have about this trilogy, and this isn't the trilogy's fault, this is just natural life, each of these 3 movies I read early on with Force Awakens is that each of these 3 movies were going to deal with the legacy characters. There was Han in Episode 7, which I think, we got the focus on him on that one. We got Luke, which is going to be the focus on Episode 8, which we got, and, pretty great. Grumpy Luke was really, like, people said it was out of character, and, he almost killed Kylo Ren at that point, and that seemed a little bit out of character.
I disagree with that choice a little bit personally, but it's ultimately their movies, and Mark Hamill played it so well.
Oh, he did.
It's like, would it have been my choice? No, but I can roll with it.
Yeah, and that was part of the reason I was super excited for this movie, was because I wanted to see a bunch of Luke. I would have preferred more Luke, but we got plenty. And the 9th movie was supposed to be about General Leia. And unfortunately, with Carrie Fisher's passing, we aren't going to get to see that wrapped up as they were going to try, however that was going to be.
I really thought when they had the scene where the helm basically gets blown up, and she's sucked out into space, that they actually were going to go for it.
I thought so too.
Kill her character off at that point.
There has been a lot of reaction to that scene.
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah,
I wrote a post up on popshow.com today where it's, thing I'm going to try to do is the good, the bad, and the WTF. And that was one of my WTF moments. It's like, Leia obviously is Force sensitive. We know this. She's a Skywalker. But we haven't seen it in film with her using the Force yet. I don't think we've seen it on the TV shows, I should say, because she makes an appearance in I want to say, wasn't she in Clone Wars a little bit? Like one episode? I know she's been in
she
an
might
episode
have
of
been.
Rebels.
I know she's in Rebels, but at that time, she wouldn't have known that she was Force sensitive anyway.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that's a good point. And so, but we haven't seen her use the Force, even in the comics, at all. So now the audience's first entrance to Leia using any kind of Force has been her Force floating through space, which was so weird to me.
I didn't really have a problem with that.
I did. It was like,
Yeah, it was
what?
weird.
Yeah, it was weird. So
I just didn't have a problem with it. I thought it would have been the perfect way to have. I mean, it
thought
sucks
they
for
did.
it would have sucked for the
I know,
character
I
to
thought
die off
too,
that way.
like, oh, but there's the
yeah,
end. Yeah. Rest
But-
in peace, Carrie.
And they could have. And I was reading today that Ryan Johnson, writer director, he was like, I could have done reshoots, but Carrie Fisher gave such a great performance at the end of the film, throughout the film, once she wakes back up from this coma. And he said it would have been an insult to her to remove that stuff. And you know what? I agree.
I disagree.
Why?
I think that I think her part in the movie was instrumental, and I understand why. What are you doing?
Trying to get the mic closer to you. You're
Oh well, all right.
That's not the way to do it.
I understand why he kept her in the way he did, but I think he would have been okay if they killed her off as she was floating in space, and and then they could have. I mean, there's a million ways they could have used that footage. A million ways they could have used it. They could have done certain web releases that would have done really well to market it. They could have done, DVD extras. They could have done bonuses. There's a million ways they could have done it.
But those things don't add to the story, though.
No,
They're just little extras
but
false marketing if you're using it for marketing purposes. Unless you're advertising it as, we have deleted scenes of Carrie Fisher.
Well, that's how they would do it.
Okay.
Because
do people advertise things with deleted, I'm genuinely asking. I'm not.
So
Well, I mean,
okay.
the original trailer for Rogue One is not the movie that we got.
Well, I know,
Here
but
is
no
the
one
thing.
said,
Yeah,
"Hey,
but
here are the deleted scenes from Rogue One on our Blu-ray. Buy our Blu-ray disc."
I think if someone loves something enough that they want to see the deleted scenes, and I think that matters. I don't know if people buy DVDs anymore, except for you, but
I buy them.
and you, but I mean, I think there's a million ways they could have done stuff with those extra Carrie Fisher scenes that would have paid an appropriate homage to the actor and to the fans, because this is such a complex and multifaceted and multi-medium world that there's a ton of ways they could have done it. They could have used it to leverage comic book sales or any of the other show properties, or I don't know, had little private screenings. I mean, there's a lot of things they could have done that I think would have been fine. I don't think that leaving those scenes in to pay a particular homage to Carrie Fisher was necessarily the right move, but it was fine the way it was, and it was certainly his prerogative.
I liked the Luke Leia reunion. Well,
I mean, yeah,
It was
that
touching.
That
I
was
thought
that was
that.
touching, but I don't really think we needed it. But I mean, okay, But I mean,
but
I
that
get-
goes back to the fan service
No, but
as
see-
far as
Well, there's a question though. I do not have that deeply ingrained fandom, and this movie does not serve the deeply ingrained fans the same way.
no. I think they're. I
Right?
think Travis is right. He mentioned earlier that they are the loudest bunch, and I will fully agree with that.
They are the loudest bunch, and and like I said, I think the movie was fine, but I also think that it was much more of a crowd pleaser to the bigger crowd, and I wonder if that was a strategic choice or if that's how it happened to be. You know what I mean? Like, I think
Both.
I think the fan. Well, it can be both.
Yeah, it can.
I think that the fans being like saying Ryan Johnson needs to, apologize. Like, speaks to that,
Yeah.
right?
Well, the reason I say both is because one, he's trying to break up the Star Wars as Dean and I know it. For example, I mean, he's trying to break it up as far as the hardcore fans know it, because the only way you're going to continue this Star Wars universe franchise is by opening it up and getting away from the Skywalkers. The Skywalkers are done. They are, and unless there's some sort of rape parentage that we don't know about
We were
yet.
texting back and forth about this, and I said, "Well, I guess the Skywalker story is effectively done at this
Right.
point." I mean,
And it is.
Yep.
Unless J.J. Abrams pulls something out of his hat with Rey and her, whoever her parents are. Kylo mentions her parents were backwater junk traders.
Yeah.
But one, I'm not buying it, and two, even if I did buy it, JJ could still come back and change it.
I personally did buy it. I was never a fan. Like I said, it was a typical J.J. Abrams. We got to have a mystery. We got to have a mystery. So the fact that he said no, there is no mystery. They were nobody.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly fine with that. Like I said, it gets it away from being a Skywalker story. Two, it makes the universe feel bigger because the more
It is.
interconnected every random character you have show up on the screen, the smaller the universe will feel because of it. The idea, I mean, it doesn't, there's more to the Force, there's more to Star Wars than just Skywalkers.
Totally.
It's
The TV shows are perfect examples of that.
The idea that this person was destined for greatness because of what her family did in the past doesn't need to be done.
No,
We've had
it definitely breaks up that chosen one trope.
We've had that for 7 movies.
Yeah.
Before this one, so we don't need it anymore.
And I think that's why I say both, is because it's getting away from the tropes that Star Wars knows, and it opens it up to a broader audience.
Yeah, but I can see, though, when you put it that way, Dean, to say, like, J.J. Abrams builds up this mystery, and Rian Johnson goes, no, there's no mystery. It kind of feels like a middle finger.
Well, like I said, that's why I meant when I got the impression that Rian Johnson is not a fan of that.
Yeah, and
style.
I can see that. Yeah. And I 100%, I think that was a really good observation when you said it makes the universe feel bigger. But you got to think that so much of the fandom that exists was built up around that inside club.
Which is why you see the 53% approval rating amongst
it's
casual
tough.
audience goers.
I found it to be very accessible. And I say that in a way that Star Wars has never, ever, ever felt accessible to me. And even so, my father had never seen anything besides, when he died, he'd never seen anything besides the original trilogy. But he would still go on and on about how amazing the original trilogy was. He was like, I remember going to the theater and it was like mind blowing. And, and that was built around that mythos, right? So for me to go into this movie and come out of it and be like, oh yeah, I wonder what happens with them, that's kind of a new experience for me. I always wrote off Star Wars as just something I was never going to be folded into.
I mean, I mentioned earlier when we were first texting back and forth about the petitions that were out there. Back in the day, for people who remember when Empire Strikes Back was out and there was no such thing as Return of the Jedi, how much fandom back then was so angry and upset with George Lucas. One, because Darth Vader actually was a person and not a machine. And two, the idea that he was Luke's father outraged people.
Really?
Yes. So,
Okay.
I mean, if we had had the internet back then that we do today, you probably would have had almost the same exact reactions to some of this stuff that occurred in The Last Jedi as in Empire Strikes Back.
We were saying there's a trend to love bad movies like The Room and hate good movies. You think about it.
Which is disheartening because it's not going to inspire anybody to get into the industry if people are going to crap on their stuff.
Well, I don't think the industry has any problem recruiting people, but
Fair point,
I think that it creates a weird talent vacuum, to your point. And, take Lady Bird, right? Lady Bird was going 100% and everybody was blown away. And then, of course, there's that one a-hole who's like, no, I hated it.
Yeah, but that one a-hole also didn't like Wonder Woman, so his opinion is invalid to us.
Well, Wonder Woman wasn't perfect.
No, but he gave it an F.
Oh, well, that feels a little extreme. But,
Sure
I mean, there's always that one a-hole. And then, of course, it snowballs. And, Alexis brought up a point earlier about how, on our Facebook chat, about how, Lucas had a hard time appeasing all the fans. And it's and it gets almost philosophical when your art is out in the world. Does it belong to you anymore? And it's kind of like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't belong to you anymore.
Well, in Lucas's case, it still did because he went back and revised it like 3 times.
Well,
Yes.
but see, that power grab got him a really bad rap
It did.
among his community, and he never really recovered from that.
No.
So, I mean, that's kind of the bigger question. Who does this property belong to? Okay, it belongs to, our Disney overlords, our mouse overlord. But what
At this point, yeah.
But I mean, whoever it's in the hands of is it's up to them to interpret it the way that they want, and it is impossible that it's going to please everybody.
Yeah. No, and then even Rob chimed in. He was saying, they spent the prequel trilogy complaining how it should have been more like the originals, and then we get Force Awakens, and it was, in my opinion, a rehash of New Hope almost. So they complained it was too much like the original trilogy. So, you're never going to make everybody happy. I think for me, it really comes down to the fact that he's shaking it up. You know what? If I like the original trilogy so much, I'll go back and watch the original trilogies. Give me something new. I like that I'm getting new ideas. I like things are expanding. I liked The Last Jedi.
Ryan Johnson seems to be weathering the criticism fairly well from what I've read. Ultimately, he made the movie that he wanted to make, and I can respect him for that.
Totally.
I'm definitely looking forward to a trilogy where he is the one doing it. I'm less happy with the fact that J.J. Abrams is returning to this trilogy. I'd rather they stuck with Ryan Johnson, honestly.
It was actually Colin Trevorrow, and they fired him. So
after they fired him, I would have liked to have seen, especially now having seen Last Jedi, I would have preferred Ryan Johnson.
Did he want to?
I don't know. Don't know if he wanted to. I think he turned it down just because of how much of an investment this movie was. Especially at the time when he turned it down, we didn't know he was going to be doing a whole new trilogy or being in charge of that. So it makes sense for him to have turned it down. I just wish they could have picked someone else besides J.J. Abrams.
Listen, Ryan Johnson could just go cry into his monstrous pile of money
It's
that
true.
a bunch of jerks on the internet don't like his movie. Boo-hoo.
I'm actually kind of in the mood to see Looper now.
It broke all these records. It opened. It's in
second biggest opening.
Second biggest opening ever. Yeah, he's gonna have a rough Christmas.
Yeah. So I don't know. So all three of us, we liked it. Two diehard fans still really enjoyed it. One casual fan actually wants to know more about the Star Wars universe now. So maybe I'll try to capitalize on that and try to get her to watch Clone Wars, Rebels, and prequels.
Well, isn't that just optimistic? But okay, but you've got to think these fandoms exist, and by the nature of them, makes it very, very difficult for outsiders to join because they're not. And even fandoms for shows are like this too. Like
Rick and Morty's had some big backlash lately.
Right, Rick and Morty's had some backlash. Take something like Lost. You can't just tune into Lost. You can't just pick it up. Like if Netflix didn't have all of it, you're kind of screwed. You can't just start in with season 3. The nature of these fandoms is that you're in, right? And if you're not in, you better go back to the beginning, or you're just gonna miss the train. You can't jump in the middle. So
Game of Thrones and Walking Dead, two big ones right now.
Right, yeah, exactly. And it's hard to get into that. Take some, or like Grey's Anatomy has been on the air for 1,000,000 years. You can't just jump in now.
Law and Order. No,
you could jump in with Law and Order. That's part of the reason why Law and Order has been on for 17 years, right? Because you can jump in the middle. But it's kind of like this movie felt like a place that I could actually jump in on it. It's part of my frustration with Infinity War, which we've already discussed about 1,000,000 times, and we don't have to go back to. That Infinity War,
I can do this all night.
No, we can't. We can't do it. But it's. I appreciate a movie that is deeply ingrained in a fandom and still feels like an on-ramp, because I always need one. Unless it's probably The Office, which I'm still kind of depressed about.
No, I think this revival will be good because I never watched the original, so maybe this is my on-ramp for The Office.
Nope. I can't talk about that right now.
You could watch it nonstop like a Christmas Prince.
Oh, I could.
Yeah, we can start The Office from the beginning if you want to.
Yeah, maybe we will.
We should.
I could never get into the first season, so I watched 3 episodes.
I watched 2 episodes and knew it was not for me.
Well, and see, that's the thing, though. Everyone tells me it's like Parks and Rec. Once you get past those first few episodes, it gets better and starts to become its own thing, which Parks and Rec did.
I don't know how we got on The Office, but I do know because I brought it up.
On-ramps.
On-ramps. But The Office, the first season was basically shot for shot the British version, and then it branched off. And once it branched off, it was not as it was different. It was better in some ways. It was worse in some ways. It obviously appealed more to an American audience, and it.
Did Doctor Who show up?
I'd have to rewatch it. Actually, they probably. I mean, well, Catherine Tate was on for a while,
Right.
So it's basically impossible to have a show on for that long without some crossover cameos. I just didn't know.
And then that's the thing I like going back and rewatching some of these things because you end up watching other things and you're like, oh well, this is like perfect example.
Barney Crouch Jr.
to bring it back to Star Wars a little bit, if Luke made a joke in Last Jedi where he talks laser swords. He was like, what do you expect to do? Just walk up there with laser swords and, fight the guy one-on-one? But, if I had heard that joke 10 years ago, wouldn't have known what he was talking about. But, like, now that I've gotten into the Star Wars fandom and I go back and watch some of this stuff, it's like, oh, they're making a reference to this or they're making a reference to that or this is a little in-joke here, in-joke there. And it really kind of enhances it for me. The more I watch other pop culture stuff and it all ties in because everything's influenced by other stuff at this point, So I wasn't really going anywhere with that. I was just making
You just like laser swords.
It's.
I mean, I'm sure there's room for all sorts of storytelling movies and TV shows, whether it be highly serialized such as Lost. I mean, or like Star Trek when it was the Next Generation, there was no serialization to that show whatsoever. That literally was where you could watch any of the episodes practically out of order. It would mean nothing. Everything reset itself to where it was at the beginning of the show at the end of each episode.
Right.
So I mean, it'll be like it went from series like that to highly serialized such as Lost, and I'm sure it'll go back around to having the non-serialized shows again as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's pros and cons to both. Like I said, one of the reasons Law & Order has been on for 17, 18 seasons is because you can basically pull an episode out of the hat and turn it on while you're folding laundry. Not that I've ever done that. And watch it and follow the storyline. And then, there's some threads that tie together with the way that the agents are and whatever. But you don't really need to know it to enjoy the show.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right about Star Trek. That's one of the reasons I really loved it. My parents would watch it religiously, and sometimes I'd join them, and sometimes I wouldn't, and I'd never feel lost.
Yeah. So, all right. Do we want to wrap it up, guys?
Yeah, let's call it a night.
Getting about that time.
We got rapping to do. Christmas rapping. Not like.
Okay, sure.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
I'm obviously
Hold
tired.
on. You know what? I'm stopping the music just so I can
Inappropriate.
Oh. You stopped the music just for that?
Yep. Well, also I mean, if I want to play a drop, I've got to stop the music. So, it's all.
I expect nothing less from you, Keith.
Technical.
Yeah, it's
see.
all technical.
Or more,
so.
I suppose.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. There's the sweet sounds of Fingers with a 1 and a 3 out of Richmond, Virginia. Our neighbor to the west.
Northwest-ish.
We are Pop Show based out of Norfolk, Virginia. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Pop Show, where you might be listening live right now. If you're listening to us on podcasts, we broadcast live every Tuesday starting at 8 p.m. Except for the next 2 weeks, we are off because of the holiday.
Yes.
You can follow us on Twitter @Pop Show. And if you are listening live, download our podcast. We are on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and Podbean.
Yes.
Yeah.
And fun fact, we've reached 100 downloads.
What?
Might not seem like a lot
Congratulations.
to a bunch of people, but
Hey, that's pretty legit to us.
it is 100 downloads. Hey, Jamar, we're signing off. Sorry, dude.
If you'd like to join our conversation, join us live. We take comments. We love hearing from people. And, when you comment on our Facebook page and the articles we share, we genuinely discuss it.
Yeah.
Hence tonight's episode.
Yep.
We've
Yeah,
had
'cause
a
we were
lot
gonna
of
do an episode.
conversation. We've had a lot of conversation about the Christmas Prince, and I know you guys were dying to talk about it.
Couldn't wait.
I know.
Waited with bated breath.
I know. It's very exciting.
But check out the other stuff we got going on at popshow.com. Dean, Sarah, myself, and Matt, and Travis, and Henry are all writing stuff. And then, as Sarah mentioned, the Facebook page. Those are the two big things. So, everybody, have a good Christmas, holiday, whatever you celebrate, and a good New Year. Dean.
Merry Christmas to everybody.
So,
We will be back in 2018.
yeah. See you all next year. Bye.